The seller says you can start working on the house whenever you want. You don't have to necessarily wait to close until you get in there and start doing some work. But there's some risks in that, and that's what we're talking about. Hey everyone, Justin Cooper with Pine Financial Group, where we work together so you succeed. If you're checking us out on Facebook, be sure to give us a like. If you're finding us on YouTube, definitely subscribe. Always find us on pinefinancialgroup.com. Be sure to get on our email list. We've got great monthly newsletters, as well as updates on upcoming classes and events. Today, I wanted to come to you and talk about when you should or should not start rehab on your next deal. We were graciously asked to fund a fix and flip for an experienced investor in Denver, and they found the deal by farming their neighborhood. The seller said that they hadn't lived in the house for years, that it was a rental and the tenants had moved out, and now there's just a bunch of stuff left in the house. And part of the negotiation, the seller says you can start working on the house whenever you want. You don't have to necessarily wait to close until you get in there and start doing some work. So at a certain level, this sounds great, right? You can get in there and start getting ahead on the rehab. You don't have to wait for the closing. You don't have to wait for your lenders, anything like that. You can start moving sooner. But there's some risks in that, and that's what we're talking about. What if you can't get a loan? What if the lender doesn't come through? What if the seller gets cold feet and doesn't want to sell to you anymore? What if the title company finds some pretty big title flaws and they can't get it closed? What if? All of these things that could happen basically will mean that the time, the effort, the money you have into this work is all for nothing because you will lose it. You don't own the house. So that's a pretty big risk. Regarding lenders and title companies, one of the big things that lenders want, especially Pine Financial, is we generally want to be in first and really maybe even the only lien position. We want to be the first lender on this property. So sometimes that comes up. That's part of what title companies do, is they offer insurance, title insurance, guaranteeing that us as Pine Financial and a hard money lender will have that first lien position on a property. Sometimes we may even get extended coverage to make sure of that. But things can get in the way of that. Generally, it's pretty easy, it's pretty clean because you're getting the loan when you're buying the property. How could somebody have a lien position in front of you if you don't even own the property? Right? You have to be getting that loan when you're buying because you can't buy it without that loan. So generally, it's pretty easy to make sure that that can happen. But in this case, work had started before they owned the property. So that can raise some concerns around mechanics liens. So when we talk about mechanics liens, we're talking about maybe the plumber who doesn't get paid, and so he wants to put a lien on your property, or maybe the carpet installer, there's a dispute over something, and they put a lien on your property. We're talking about plumbing, electrical, the carpet guys. These things can come in well down the road, maybe when you're almost done, or it may even come up after the project is complete and it's sitting on the market waiting to sell. But the tricky part is those liens, they don't go into position for when the lien is filed. They don't even go into position for when that work specifically was done. They can file that lien, and that lien can take priority all the way back to when work began on the property. So the risk in this property specifically was the work began before closing. So if somebody was to file a lien way down the road here, right, they could potentially have access and priority lien position in front of us as the hard money lender because of the work starting before closing and before we came in and filed our lien as the lender. Some lenders may not like that. They may not want that risk, and they may throw their hands up and not fund the deal. Going back to what I mentioned earlier about the risk in doing work beforehand and maybe not closing on it. You have time and effort in, and maybe the lender won't fund because of it. Now, Pine Financial is potentially okay with that on this deal because all they had done was trashed out the property, a couple dumpsters of trash, maybe a little bit of demo work, but nothing substantial. Sometimes we run into it where people get into a fix and flip and they're halfway through the project, but they need a little bit more money to get over the hump and get the deal done. Well, that case, maybe they're too far into the project for us to be able to help out. For this case, we could get in and be comfortable if we could get the right title insurance, if the title company would cover us and guarantee that we would be in first position. With that said, Pine Financial was comfortable moving forward, but could we get the title company to do it? So if you're looking at maybe you own a house and you're getting proper insurance just on your house. Say you want flood insurance because you're worried about the house flooding. There's always risk of a house flooding, and that's why we get insurance, right? To mitigate these risks. But if, say, you're buying a house and it's on top of a hill, the likelihood of it flooding from the rains is probably pretty small, so you should have no problem getting that flood insurance. But if your house is right down next to the river and that river is known to flood every year, you may not be able to get that flood insurance. The insurance company may not be comfortable with the risk in providing that insurance. And that's what we're up against here. I went to the property before closing to meet the investor, walk the property, get comfortable with everything. And in doing so, I noticed some work had been done. I talked to the investor. They were very open about what had happened. And so immediately I knew that this could be an issue. So we talked about it. We discussed it. What are the hiccups? What are the hurdles? How can we maybe even overcome it? We discussed it. And then it was, okay, well, we might be comfortable moving forward, but we have to make sure the title company is comfortable moving forward. So the next step was reaching out. Can we do it? Are you comfortable, title company, in issuing this insurance? And unfortunately, they were not. So what did that mean? What happened? Luckily, because when you're working with the right team, like Pine Financial Group as your lender, when we are standing in your corner, we not only have years of experience, thousands of deals closed, we also just have a great network in the communities that we're lending in. So what we did was we called other title companies and said, hey, here's the scenario, here's the situation, are you comfortable covering this? So we found the title company, we moved the closing to a different title company, and we got it closed with really no delays or issues to the buyer or to the seller. What could have been a deal killer actually worked out just fine. If you're not working with the right lender and they can't properly identify these issues, if you don't have a lender who understands and has a big network to overcome these things, you're gonna run into these issues. And so often at Pine Financial, we get these phone calls, people looking for loans, looking to get started in real estate. And the first thing, and sometimes the only thing they ask is, what does it cost? What are the points? What are the interest? But really, there's so many other moving parts. They're not asking, how well funded are we? How many deals have we closed? What's our experience? Are we investors ourselves? And thus we can relate and understand what's going on in these projects. There's so much that goes on to finding the right team, and it can be so critical, as it was in this project, to getting the deal closed. Thanks for checking out this quick tip on when you should or should not start your rehabs. Go ahead and again, like us on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, and go ahead and get on that mailing list at pinefinancialgroup.com.